Hi, Stacy here again. After the lesson 7 in Intro to HTML, we completed this page. So it looks kind of dull and boring, but we know that we can get it to look like this if we just applied a few styles to it. Let me go to my code page, and you can see this is the code and there aren't any styles. We did put a header tag, a couple div tags, nav tag, an unordered list with some list items, etc. So let's go ahead and create a style sheet to this. So the first thing we need to do is set a link on this page to the style sheet that really doesn't exist quite yet. I'm going to cheat a little bit and copy the code here, but I want to stick this in the head, and I'll read the code to you. It's open bracket, link, space, rel, equals, style sheet, one word, and that's in quotes, space, the media equals, quotes, screens, as opposed to a print media, space, href, and we've seen that before when we did anchor tags for links, href equals, quotes, style.css. Now, if I go to the actual directory where these items are, this is the page I'm working on right now, index3.htm, but I don't have a style CSS, I only have a styles CSS, and that's not the one I want. So I will save this, and it really didn't do anything to the page because the only thing that I did was add a style sheet that doesn't exist, or a link to a style sheet. So let's go ahead and create a style sheet. We'll do a new file, and we'll choose style sheet and open. And basically what that did, we don't have to have any kind of HTML tags, we don't have to have the header HTML or footer or body HTML or anything like that. We do have to have tags that we're referencing in order to change them, the style, layout, or whatever. So the first thing that this does is puts body and then an opening and a closing squiggly brace. So we're going to do something interesting here that's going to be a really dynamic change, and what we want to do is put this forest background in. So I need to go find the name of that file, and lo and behold, it's called forest.jpg, all lowercase. And because it's in the same directory as my index3.htm, I don't have to put it in a subdirectory when I call it or write the path out to that image. So because we've learned how to do images with the img tag, this is totally different because that's HTML, and this, my friends, is not HTML, it is CSS. So in order to do that, we need to set the background, and to set the background, we simply write background. Now the syntax is a little bit different. We don't use an equal sign here, we use a colon. So it's colon, and then instead of src, this uses URL because it's got to be different, things can't be consistent. So we'll do URL, and then we need to put parentheses to call the path to that forest JPEG. And since it's not in an images directory, we don't have to type images / all we'll do is type forest.jpg. And let's save this. We need to save it as style because that's what we called it, style.css, in the graphics folder, so we're in a good spot. And let's go take a look at our browser and hit F5, and we see that there is a forest in the background. The text is a little bit tough to read, so let's go and turn that white. We'll go back to our code, and we're still in the background, and actually the body tag. And the body tag, if we want to set the color of the font for everything on the page, we will just type in color white. And something I neglected to do that needs to be done is I need to end every line with a semicolon. So now my colors are matching up right. My color coding and color is red and white is blue. So let's save that and go back to my web page and hit F5, and you can see that that changed. The next thing we'll do is we are going to make the font size. Doesn't matter what size it currently is, but whatever size it is, we want to make it larger. And end that with a semicolon, save, Alt-Tab, hit refresh, and the font changes to a larger size. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the section called section. So we'll go back to the index.html page, and the section is the part that contains Whitehorn, the novel, the picture of the novel, etc. So we'll go back to Style CSS, and in order to start modifying the section, oops, I didn't want to delete that squiggly, all we have to type is section. And put the squigglies in, and then let's say that for section we want to change the background color. So we could do background dash color and put in black and with a semicolon, and let's Alt-Tab and F5, and when we hit F5 you'll see that that background for the section takes up almost the whole width of the page, and it turns black. Let's go back to our CSS page, and let's modify the position of this. Let's say we want the position to be absolute, and I definitely need to have a lesson on absolute, but basically this says put it in a position here, say top 200 pixels, so it's going to be 200 pixels from the top of its parent container, and left will be 130 pixels, and the width will be 70% actually. So let's take a look at what that did, and F5, and it's starting to reposition that according to what we asked it to do. And let's put margin :auto, and what margin auto does is it essentially centers this section, but what it really does is it splits any available margin equally from the left side and the right side. Okay, let's work on the navigation area, and that's this home, books, contact, about. So that we put in a nav, and we can just select it off the list. Oops. There we go. And we'll put our squigglies in, and for here let's do another absolute position, and I will explain that in another video. It's too important not to explain. And the top position will be 100 pixels from the top. It'll be 550 pixels from the left, so that's left : 550 px, and everything ends with a semicolon. Let's save this and take a look. F5, and it moved it up to the top. The next thing we want to do, and this is kind of a fun one, we want to transform the text, so that's text dash transform : uppercase. And I know I'm going a little fast, but I'll sit here and wait for you. No. Seriously, just pause the video and you can re-watch it as many times as you want. So let's save this and hit F5, and you'll see that it transformed home, books, contact, etc. to all uppercase. Let's make the size 14 pix, so we'll say font dash size : 14 pix, and with a semicolon, and let's center that to margin : auto. Save. There we go. Now, another thing that we want to do is we don't want them stacked vertically on top of each other, but that's not the nav, that is actually the list. So that's the unordered list and the list items. So let's go work on those a little bit. I'm going to go to the end of this. Let's first work on the unordered list. So we'll type UL and squiggly brackets or braces. And we're going to do, we saw this before, list dash style colon, and we don't want a style on it. We also don't want a style type. So we'll type list dash style dash type colon none. And I just noticed an error here, so this is list style, not list type. Okay. And let's save that and F5. Okay. And the next thing we want to do is work on the list items. So that we're going to float it to the left. Let's take a look and see what that did. Float. Colon left. And these are the wrong braces. Very, very picky. I have to get this right. And it sets them across. But they're a little close together, so let's affect the padding. And we're going to type padding colon 10 pixels. Save that and take a look. There we go. So that looks a lot better and starting to look more and more like this page. So I want to end here because I don't want to take up too much time in each video. But what I do want to end with is, because we did say padding and we did say margin, and I kind of want to explain that I do have a graphic here. So if we have the content of something that might be a paragraph with text in it, the next little bit of space after that, directly up against the content, is your padding. Then you may have a border, which would be some sort of rule, or maybe a black solid line, and it could be any width that you make it, is the next area that gets occupied, and then directly after that is the margin. So you can affect the space between the border and the content, and the space between the border and the outside of that container. So that's the difference between margin, border, padding, and content. I would encourage you to play around with both of those settings and just change them as often as you like to whatever you want, and really exaggerate and put 100 pixels as the padding and see how that modifies. It might be easier to see if you have color and you have a border, and then that way you have some frame of reference. Anyway, I'm going to stop for now, and I'll come back and finish this up with some more styles in the next video.